Here we are back again, day 6 of A Little Inspiration from It's a Wonderful Life. This one gets a little deeper tonight. I want to talk about leadership and George Bailey's leadership. One of the most essential components to leadership is taking responsibility, taking ownership. Being a leader means you take responsibility of everything that comes your way, okay? George began showing leadership as soon as the movie starts. His kid brother goes in the pond, and George takes ownership of the situation, jumps in to save him, pulls him out, tells the other guys, form a chain, help pull me out of here. He takes ownership of the situation, shows his leadership skills right from the beginning. You notice when they're walking into town and George is on his way to work, all the boys are locked arm in arm, and they swing George into Gower's Pharmacy to go to work. Looks like he's the only guy that had a job out of his group of friends, right? I'm not saying that to besmirch the other guys, but here's George, the young man, already has a job, taking leadership, right? The girls come in there, sit at the stand, order their beverages, right? And George is working leadership from a very young age. Then he takes it upon himself when Mr. Gower puts those poison pills in there and smacks George in the ear and finally recognizes what he did. George says, "Don't worry, Mr. Gower, I'll never tell anybody about what happened, right? I understand what happened. You lost your son. I'll never tell anybody." What a leader at a young age. This fine young man is taking ownership of the situation, defused the situation, and realizes, I don't need to tell anybody about this. The man was suffering. He lost his son. He's been drinking. He recognizes what he did was wrong, and I don't need to be the one to spread this around. He tells him, I'm not going to tell anybody, right? And then he forms a lifelong friendship with his former boss, Mr. Gower. If you look at every major thing that happens in George's life, Mr. Gower is right there. He's there right at his wedding. He bought him the luggage for his trip, right? Mr. Gower stands by him because George showed him that leadership at such a young age. George takes responsibility so many times throughout this movie. I'm going to talk about a couple more instances, right? When there's the run on the bank, right? And George is on his way to his honeymoon, and he realizes that there's people lined up outside of the building alone. He could have said, this ain't my problem. This ain't my problem. Uncle Billy's there. He'll take care of it. But George gets out of the car, runs up there. Billy, with all due respect to Uncle Billy, he's cowering in fear, locked in the building there, afraid to address the people. George unlocks the door and confronts the situation head on, right? Tries to talk to the people, comes up with a solution, right? George takes ownership, responsibility of the situation. Then the plan is 4 years from now, Harry's going to go away to college. He's going to come back and take over the building alone, and George is finally going to get to fulfill his dreams, right? No, right? When Harry gets off the train, right? What's he say? He says, hey George, I'm gonna fulfill my obligations, right? But he's already offered another job from his new wife's father, right? You could tell where his heart is, where he wants to go, right? And George immediately says he's talking to his mother. He goes, he's not going to stay here, right? I'm going to have to take care of the building alone. Takes responsibility, does that, right? Time and again, George is confronted with a situation where he could wash his hands of it or take ownership of it. He constantly takes ownership of it. He is a leader. He is a leader among men in Bedford Falls, right? Then even at the very end there, right? Even at the very end. Well, one other instance I want to point out. There's Martini. Giuseppe Martini's moving from Potterfield, the Potter homes, to his own home, right? George obviously got him a loan so that he could build his own home. What is George doing in this situation? He is there packing his car, putting his kids in the car, and helping him move from his old tenement that he was renting from Mr. Potter to his new home that the building alone built. George is right there on the front line being a part of this, big event in Martini's life, right? And then in the bitter end, right? And there's other examples. I could go on forever about the opportunities George showed leadership throughout this movie. But in the very end there, right? Uncle Billy loses $8,000, right? He was there. He's to make the deposit. He loses the money, right? George takes this on himself as if he's the one who lost the money. He takes full responsibility of this. He could have easily said, look, Uncle Billy, you're nothing but a headache to me. I'm firing you. I'm letting everybody know what happened, right? We'll figure out some other solution, but you are holding the bag on this one, man. I am not taking ownership of this one. George is so distraught because he takes full ownership of this. Billy doesn't, I mean, where's Uncle Billy in this thing, right? He's the guy who lost the money. Absent-minded Uncle Billy. I mean, nobody should be thinking of killing themselves, but if anybody should be jumping off the bridge, it should be Uncle Billy, right? He caused this mess. But George takes complete ownership of this, right? And this is why he's in his, moment of distress, because he's taking responsibility for this situation at this moment, right? There are so many lessons in leadership throughout this movie, so many opportunities that George Bailey showed leadership, and the key element of the leadership he showed was accepting responsibility. So, the reflection on there is this: do you take responsibility in your own life, or are you always looking for someone else to blame? Do you try to pass the buck? Real leaders take responsibility every single time there's an opportunity to either pass the buck or take responsibility. They take responsibility, just like George Bailey. Have a great night, never quit, and have a wonderful life.